Hello everyone. Hopefully in just a second I'll find out if y'all can hear me. So, while I wait for the chat to kind of catch up, I'm Jen from Actually Diet Art by Science, and this is the first live stream I think I have done in like almost 4 months to the day. So yeah, it's just one of those things where the world is challenging me, and as much as I want to do these, I've not really been able to. So if you are here, if you want to pop your name in the chat, maybe a project that you're working on, hopefully you've got a beverage. I decided water was my beverage. So I've got that. I've got a new setup as well. So I've got, I think last time I might have mentioned this, I've got like a new tripod for my camera so I can adjust it better. And I got a new laptop because my other one was about ready to melt. And as much as I had wanted to get everything converted over, I still needed to wait until I had enough funds to get memory upgrade, so I had more space on my new laptop for everything. So I finally did that, literally this morning. I got the upgrade to the memory last weekend as a Christmas present to Expertly Dying. But anyway, so I've just been really behind on everything, getting this set up and kind of adjusting to some of the things with my new job, which for those of you who don't know, I am a field archaeologist, and I was just getting used to the new schedule with that, waking up really early, sometimes having long days, and yeah, it was sort of something's got to give, and unfortunately it was a lot of the extras that I do on the side, but I've been slowly kind of coming back up to speed with everything. So at any rate, here we are. Got the new setup, got all the things working for the live stream. I've been checking actually the live stream on YouTube and it looks really good. I think having a slightly faster computer has helped with the resolution, so hopefully when I show things to the screen you can actually see it better. So just a couple of other things I've been working on in the background, because obviously my hands cannot just be idle. One of them was actually finishing the sweater. So it actually looks kind of weird with the digital output there. But basically one of the colorways from my repeatable colorway line, North Atlantic, it can be dyed on pretty much any amount of wool, and it will be slightly different depending on the wool you're working with. So this is the very first Cormo fleece I ever bought and washed back from 2011. And I did some supported spindling with it back in 2013 and 14, and then didn't do anything more with it. And then I finally finished the yarn, I think, maybe the end of last year, beginning of this year, and I thought, well, I might have enough yardage for a sweater. Turns out I did. I had about 800 yards of this 2-ply, bulky, supported spindle spun yarn, and then I dyed it with the North Atlantic colorway, and I just did like a knitted swatch, and did like a basic raglan increase, and I did kind of like a high v-neck because I think my sweaters go down. And yeah, it's just probably good sometimes to have sweaters that actually go more up to your neck. Hey, can you just double check that you've got sound?
Yeah, sure.
Please, thank you. Just gonna have my IT guy give that a quick check for me. Seems good on my end. Anyway, so very excited that this was done. This was sweater number 2 that I have done. I did one last year, finished it just before Christmas, and then finished this one just before Christmas, and then my partner wanted his own sweater. So I've got this one here, which is almost done. And this is in the oil slick colorway. And I did the Aran weight, which is actually a new dye. Sorry, a new base. It's an old color, but a new base. And he just wanted sort of like a crew neck around the top. So this is almost done. I think in total it'll take 5 full skeins of yarn, and these have 191 yards per skein. And he's pretty average sized person. Anyway, so I've been working on that. That's a Christmas present apparently. It's like when you finish a project and people are like, oh, I love that. Can I have one, or how much would it cost? So I finished this, and he's like, I really like that. And so here I am knitting him a sweater. Got Crazed Vintage Model saying hello and welcome back. Thank you for having me. Like I said, I really missed doing these, but it's a lot of just preparation for this. And it was very, very short on time before. But, you know, better late than never. So, yes, I've been doing various knitting projects. I also have some old videos that I'm slowly going through and figuring out what needs to be edited, because it's been a little while. And I think it was the last Fiber Talk episode that I did was Clune Forest, which is this here. And it's kind of difficult to kind of make out what this is, but because I work outdoors and we had some sub-zero temperatures, it was imperative to have extra layers. So one of them is something that goes around my whole neck, because we have to wear very specific gear, and if it's not approved, then we can't wear it. So I'm kind of skirting the edge by making a giant dickie, essentially. So if you have any idea what that is, if you're a child of the 80s, so this is the bottom edge. I'm going to be doing a seed stitch, which will be the flaps for the front and the back. And then I did just a basic 2x2 rib here at the top, so I can fold it down like that. Right, so it's going to be kind of like this when I'm wearing it and it's not too cold, and then I can also flip it up all the way like that. And I dyed this. This was also hand spun, which you can go and see that video if you've not seen it already. So I dyed this with the dark crystal colorway, and again, because different wools would take on different colors, or take the colors on differently, it came out so much different than it does on Superwash Merino. It's much more muted, and actually I kind of like it this way. I have to wear bright orange at work, so it's not like the color would have been out of place. But anyway, so I've been working on that. So hopefully I'll be able to add some more details to that video. But yeah, I've got a couple of videos, a daily, I know one of them is a daily vlog. I've been slowly working through trying to get that done. But essentially it's just very time consuming doing all these things in your spare time. And sometimes I work like 10-hour days, and if I've been maticking really, really hard, it's very exhausting. So I come home and I feel like I just need to wrap up in a blanket with a hot water bottle on all the bits of me that are sore. So, oh, thank you for the sweater colors. It's always interesting because I've been hand dyeing for over a decade, and I'm never not amazed when I dye something like one colorway, and then I dye it on a different wool, and it's just so different. So yeah, it's just been kind of nice to see. I really needed to do a video about this because I know I can tell you why the Aran yarn that I have for the oil slick colorway looks so different from what you'll see from the 4-ply or the sport weight and the DK or the double knit weight. So different. But I'm just going to talk about that in a video where I can actually be more organized with my explanation. Mannequin? What? Also, hello Chris. I'm the most excited person to see that I'm back. Craze Vintage says, I haven't knitted for a long time because life happens, doesn't it? Yeah. So you crochet and you want to learn how to spin. Oh, I've never heard of a royal hair before. Oh. Hopefully you found my supported spindling video then, because I have a little starter tutorial there with that. And like I said, I did this entire sweater yarn with the supported spindle, so it doesn't have to be like, 100% perfect, but you can make, things that are fitted quite easily, even if you're just sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm actually very excited to be working in field archaeology. I mean, it's kind of a love-hate thing because I love being able to work outside and I love being able to sort of be at the cutting edge of, at the forefront of all of the finds. Sometimes they're just super duper boring instead of just the cutting edge of research, which is what I did for like my entire PhD. But it's kind of nice to see how they both work. So yeah, hopefully, oh, and actually, if you are a Patreon member, I know I still need to record my voiceover for a presentation that I gave back in November. Sometimes I try to get too many things done at once, and then it backfires. I was sick for the better part of 3 weeks, but it was more like 2 weeks. And I didn't actually get around to finishing the voiceover for that, so it's incomplete. And I've got a new Patreon post that I've been working on, and I'm gonna get it out this month, I promise. But it's actually about 2 things that I have an interest in, obviously because of my job. There's some details that I have to keep behind a paywall to limit and restrict access to the information, at least for the moment. And then it relates also in some small way to some of the things that I did for my research was all like Iron Age based. So yeah, I will get more information public when I can. And the conference video will go live on the channel. It'll just be restricted to my patrons first, because they support me every month. And supporting me is actually really, really great, because that's actually how I got through last month. Because the cost of everything is a bit outrageous, and I had to buy some equipment for the behind the scenes stuff, like my memory card, that sort of thing, so that I could actually get everything set up on the new laptop properly instead of having to always use my old one. So I also realize now that I use DaVinci Resolve for all of my video editing, and I couldn't actually update it to the most recent version, and whenever I rendered my videos, it would take like almost 2 hours to render a 20-minute video. And sometimes, I mean, you guys know I can talk quite a lot. So I thought just now it'll probably help with all of my video editing goals during this holiday break, which the first time in my life I've been working since 2000. That's when I had my first job, and I will actually have a holiday off. It's brilliant. I love it. So yeah, I'm hoping to catch up on a lot of my videos that I've got ready to edit. But with my new laptop, I can actually get the newer version of that video editing software and hopefully reduce, like significantly reduce the amount of time it takes me to do videos. So that's good. So this weekend I decided I'm actually going to finish the sweater yarn because I've been doing little bits in the morning. So I like to get up in the morning around 5:45, have my breakfast, cup of coffee and all that stuff before I have to go off to work. And I've only been spinning basically during those moments in the morning, which is sometimes only about 10 minutes. And so I thought, well, I'm going to just schedule myself a live stream and I will get all the yarn spun for the 3 bobbins done before the stream. So here we are. So that's all started. We'll see if what the chat has to say here. Something about your job makes you hard. Oh, like a mattock, an M-A-T-T-O-C-K. It's like where I've been working in the last few months. There's some really hard, brashy limestone, and the archaeology is sort of like interspersed with it. So you can't just use a little trowel. You have to get this big, massive, heavy thing to kind of lift up the dirt and stuff. And it feels like I'm a miner, like I'm going down to the mines. And when you've spent the better part of like 5 full hours doing that, it is backbreaking. It's super labor intensive. I'm really glad that I came into this job with a higher fitness level because I think this might have killed me otherwise. I would have been really sore anyway. So yeah, that part makes me really tired. Mannequin modeling? Ooh, I would love to do some modeling. I did that actually a little bit as a kid. Yeah, field archaeology. Yeah, it is really hard work. So I've got some. I didn't actually bring any of the fleece with me, of course, but I can maybe show you on this bobbin here. If I can get it to focus on that instead of me. It's sort of like a gray, like a really light gray, kind of, it's not exactly pure white. It's kind of like an off-white almost. So it's like the white part of the fleece is slightly off-white, and there are darker fibers interspersed, so it gives it kind of like a light heathered gray look. So I've spun 3 bobbins, and the idea is to make yet another sweater. I think you'll remember last year when I was talking about one of my sweater fails in one of my daily vlogs. I had mentioned that I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough yarn to do my New Year's resolution sweater. And so I decided, well, I'm just going to knit another sweater with other yarn and see how that goes. So basically, I did a pilot run for a different sweater before finishing the yarn for the sweater I was going to make for my New Year's resolution. Talk about excessive over-planning. So, yeah, because I had done that though, I knew about how much yardage I need, so I'm doing a very similar type sweater, this time with Shetland versus merino, because eventually I will do a fiber talk about Shetland wool, because it's one of the things that I find it a little intimidating, but like it's really not. It's a really lovely wool to spin, and it's extremely versatile. I just did some carded bats, and then did sort of like a semi-worsted backwards draw for the yarn. So it's going to be sturdy, but it's not going to be quite as warm, but because they're made from bats, it'll be slightly warmer than if I did a combed top version, if that makes sense. And so I'm looking for around 1,100 to 1,200 yards of this finished yarn, which is going to be a 3-ply. And guessing the gauge is going to be sort of like a heavy fingering weight. And so I think after having spun a substantial amount of this for the project, I'll actually feel better about doing a Fiber Talk episode about it. Because my first experience with Shetland was not that great. It was basically combed top that I got. I don't even remember exactly where. I think it might have been World of Wool. Or maybe it was a different company that was only I think it might have been a company that only existed for the first couple of years X Really Died was open. I can't remember now. But either way, it was really disappointing, and I didn't want to sort of give it a negative review because so many people hold Shetland in such high regard that it felt like I would be doing a disservice, and I don't want to make people mad because I haven't done enough work with it, right? So I think I've kind of overcompensated a little bit, and so here I am. I think this is the 4th Shetland yarn that I've spun, and well, since then. And I've had nothing but great experiences, so I guess take that for what you will. So yeah, things have been pretty good otherwise on this end. I've been adding some new Aran weights to all of my colorways. So what I've been doing is dyeing the same colorway that you can see on my website and Etsy, and then just posting the photo for the new yarn, because it is different, and that's going to happen if you use superwash merino or blueface Leicester. And sometimes the difference between the superwash merino and the non-superwash merino. So I find it really helpful to show how they might look, because they're not going to be the same, and I think that would be very misleading if I just said, oh yeah, no, it looks the same. So it's a little extra effort, but I think it will help people decide what they want to use for a particular project. And speaking of projects, what are you guys working on? Did you guys have any questions? I would like to do some more tutorials next year. I always am hopeful that I have more time. So hopefully I'll be able to get back to actually producing new content and not just catching up with my older content. Ooh, and I also bought this from a local-ish lady, and the colors in this fleece, this is why I wanted to grab it. Oh well. Basically, it was a multicolored fleece, so there's some bits that are sort of really dark gray, other bits that are almost brown, some that have kind of like a 50-50 white-gray sort of mix. And with Shetland, I believe all Shetland, don't hold me to the quote, but I believe all Shetland will shed, so they will shed their whole fleece. And so when you are working with it, you might get some of these small bits in your yarn, which is basically the little bits that I'm pulling out right now, and it's because they're already not contained within the yarn. So I'm just helping things along by ripping it out. But I didn't really mind having a slightly more rustic look to this yarn because it's going to be an underlayer between sort of all of my layers of PPE, my personal protective equipment, and my body, basically. So as it is now, when the weather isn't too bad, I usually have 2 undershirts, my red and white two-tone sweater that I didn't know what to do with, found a use for it. It goes underneath all of my clothing, so no one ever sees it. The only one who might see it is my partner at 6 a.m. on work days. And then I have sort of like an orange hoodie that I wear over that, and then I have like my thermal coat that I wear over that as well, so I'm like a marshmallow. So that sweater is nice because it does keep me warm, but I need the potential to add an extra layer, like a thermal layer, that is easy to build upon. So this sweater is nice, but it's really thick, and if I get too warm wearing it, I have to take one thick layer off. Whereas if I'm wearing 2 thin layers, then if I get too warm, I can always take one off and leave one on so I don't get too cold. Because you don't want to wear, like when you're out in like, well, it's like -5°C is what, like 20 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. So if I'm working in that weather and I'm building up a sweat, I don't want to take off too many layers because then I'll get really cold. But wool, as you guys know, it will help with regulating my, like the local, to me, relative humidity. So if I am getting a little bit warm, a little bit sweaty, then the wool will kind of absorb it and I won't feel wet. I'll take it off, put it back on, and I won't feel wet. And it won't feel cold when I put the cold sweater back on. My body heat will heat it up pretty efficiently, so my core temperature won't drop too much. And these are actually really, really important because, like for example, even though I have thermal gloves that I wear for work, they're not super great. And so if I can keep my internal body temperature all the way to my wrist warm, then I'm less likely to have like that tingling sensation in my extremities. So, like for example, if I have to hold on to something, right, not having any feeling in my fingertips is actually really dangerous. Because I said, maticking, you got this big heavy thing, you got to be able to control it. So it's important to actually think in layers. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this sweater. It's actually super practical, even if it is probably going to be quite a beautiful sweater. But I don't know, do you think I should dye it? I could dye it. And then the question is, which color? Which color would it be? So I'll show you how it looks so far. Yeah, there we go. You can kind of see that. It's always going to be difficult with a live stream because it's got to render over the Wi-Fi instead of on this end, rather than I upload it and then you can just play it, with whatever internet speed you've got. But it's a pretty it's a pretty decent amount of twist. I spun it so that I would get maybe about a 20-degree twist on the ply. So there's not a lot of bounce, which is okay. I mean, there's some. If I pull that down, you can kind of see the movement. Yeah. So I'd call it a very decent amount of twist if you don't want it to be abraded too quickly, which if this is going underneath other layers, if I'm like moving around, I could potentially cause some holes to form. So I want it to be sturdy, but I also don't want to lose the heat trapping ability by spinning it too tightly, both in the singles and then again in the ply. So trying to engineer the construction of this so that it keeps me warm in this very specific case. Ooh, a plum. I actually don't know if I have any colorways that are that kind of like a reddish purple dominant color. I'll have to look. I'm looking over here because I can see my big stack of dyed yarn. But yeah, I love that color. I have several sweaters in that color. That's part of the reason why I went with blue for this one, because I got so many red and purple sweaters and like no blue ones. But it is such a good color. So that could be good. And if I don't have a colorway, it actually might be a good argument to create one. So that would be something then to consider, is which colors I could use to kind of create a summer plum type colorway. I'm thinking of like a bright plum, not necessarily, like plums can have different shades, I feel, based on the weather. So if you get plums later in the summer, I feel like they look a little darker, but that's probably just because of the particular variety. Oh. I feel like I am ready for retirement. Oh, there's so many things that you can do in retirement. So many things you've kind of like been putting off. And you're like, I'm gonna do this later, or I'm gonna plan to do this during my retirement. And then when you're finally retired, you're like, yes, finally get to do it. So, is that why you're learning how to spin then, because you're now retired? Or is this like you're in kind of like the run up to your retirement? My mom, she did a lot of stockpiling before her retirement. And I had to help her organize it because there was a lot of fabric, not a lot of space. What is up with this one strand that does not want to shift down? It's because I'm busy talking, that's why. The yarn is getting away from me. It's because it's also really fuzzy. So it just wants to glue to anything next to it. There we go. So basically what happened was the tension of one of the threads was off from the other two. So I had like a weird coiled up bit that wasn't wanting to untangle from the rest. It's probably from when I pulled the thread out for you to see. Summer plum sounds poetic. It certainly does. Whoa! A little chaos almost happened down there. it's kind of crazy to think about, but the way that the retail world works, I should already be thinking about summer, but I can't stop thinking about the holidays. They are upon us, and it's no surprise. But I'm always just like, oh, I should do all of these like holiday themed like bats and spins and tutorials and all these other things, and I'm just like, I haven't even put up my tree. This amount of decoration is all I've been able to put up so far, in part because our cat, Layla, eats everything. She like can't distinguish the difference between food and not food sometimes. And she has a particular affinity for plastic, which she then eats and then throws up. And when you rent, that's not what you want. So, because I've been sort of busy with work and trying to get my license, I've not really had a lot of spare time. I need to mount it on a wall, and I need a wall that she can't actually get to by jumping on anything. And so there aren't that many walls that I could use for that. So last year I was so desperate. You've probably seen like all over the internet, a lot of owners have tried to outsmart their cats. Good luck. Yeah, they kind of like put barriers in front of the tree, or they'll put like the double-sided tape down on sort of like the tree skirt to kind of keep cats away from like stepping near it. But my beautiful cat with one brain cell would manage to figure out how to get to it regardless, or she would just bowl right through and be like, I don't care. And then I would come home to a half-eaten tree, which is annoying. She's why I can't have pretty things. And actually, she's being really, really good. Normally when I'm talking on camera, she has to be like right next to me, and she has to be making sounds because I'm making sounds, and she thinks there's something wrong with me, even though she'll hear me talk all day. But when I sit down to film, when I sit down to do live streams, I have to banish her so she leaves me alone. Oh, well, pursuing new hobbies when you're retired, it's sort of like, it's one of those things where because we've got new crafting things being manufactured, or the possibility to make certain things, it opens up new crafting doors that there's no way you could have anticipated this thing existing 5 years ago. Like, my mom has gotten really into those diamond paintings. So actually you can kind of see behind me here, this here, it's a diamond painting that my mom sent me, well, not for me actually, she sent it to my partner for Christmas or birthday. I don't remember what the occasion was, but it says coffee time on there. And for those of you who might know, my partner is a coffee roaster. And actually, really fun story, I'll show you, because I know some of you know who he is. He has the nation, like one of the nation's best palates when it comes to tasting coffee. And this is his third place trophy from that competition. And so this is a cupping spoon. So this is what they use to slurp up the coffee. And what's really cool about this is he, like me, there's sort of like a little bit of imposter syndrome, and like sometimes being really confident about something, we just need someone telling us how great we are, how brilliant we are, because we're like, nah, we're not, we couldn't possibly be. We're just okay at something. And so he was kind of on the fence about going, and one day he was like, I think I might just attend this competition, and I was like, yeah, I think you should. And then he started getting kind of, well, I don't know how well I'll do. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just go there, have the experience, meet people, because networking at events like this is really great because you get to share and enthuse with similarly minded people. And I said, just go and have fun. And if you don't do well, it's not a big deal. And if you do well, then even better. So he went to this, and there's only 36 spaces in the entirety of the UK for this. And the spaces were snapped up like that, like instantly. If you weren't there ready to like book and check out, you would have missed your opportunity. So he managed to get a place in this competition, and initially we thought that he might only be there for the one day, but then he got through all of the qualifying rounds to get to the finals. So he was up there for 2 days for this competition and came home with third. So like he did such a good job, and that's why his trophy gets to sit on the mantelpiece. 'Cause, it's kind of nice being told, or well, realizing to yourself just how good you are at something. And I think, crafters, we kind of experience that as well, because a lot of people want to think, oh, this isn't that hard, or oh, could you just sell that for less, or why is this so expensive, or I can get this yarn at this store for, a $5. But it's like, actually, you can't, because look at the effort that we put into making it, right? There's a lot of skill. And having done some, that's the other thing I was going to grab. I've got the results from the last experiment that I did on the warp-weighted loom. And the insights that I have been able to gather through the process of spinning the yarn that needed to then be woven into something on a loom of that sort versus a rigid heddle or a two-beam horizontal loom. A lot of this stuff actually, it needs to be informed throughout the various processes. So when I was spinning the yarn for that particular experiment, I did a small pilot to see what I would need to do in terms of skill application to get the yarn the way that I needed it to be for the weaving process. Realized, okay, I can't do it that way. I need to try something else. And so I went back to my spinning method, and I had to make adjustments so that when I spun the yarn for the experiment, it wasn't going to fall apart, basically. And when you are looking at a textile tradition where you have no remaining textiles from the archaeological record, because this was like over 2,000 years ago, and preservation, requires very specific context in order to possibly have the right context for preservation. And then also a textile in the past had to make its way in there, and whoever dug it had to then see, oh, this looks like a textile, right? So it's like the chances of finding it are super duper rare. And so if we don't have any textiles to look at, all we have are the tools. And so all of my experiments have kind of been based around trying to almost reverse engineer how we could get there. And this was the first experiment that I actually used hand spun for the whole thing. And so at some point I will resume my discussion of my Iron Age textile series, because that was actually very, very insightful, and it needs to be documented somewhere in a visual platform like a video, so that I can both discuss and show the difference, because this was not an easy thing to just, assume, right? I could not have done this from a thought experiment alone. I kind of suspected it, But there are a lot of academics out there who aren't crafters themselves. And if they wanted to replicate an experiment and sort of tap into the expertise of an actual crafter, right, who might not know what the archaeological record is like, they might be able to shortcut some of the testing phase by relying on the research that I've done. So I will try to get that recorded and put out there at some point, because it is so interesting, and I think it also just relates to what people in the past must have known. Like, they must have known that this could happen, and so they just probably mitigated the consequences of spinning a particular way by, you know, indoctrination. So, you know, you teach your children or apprentices or whatever they might be how to do it this way, why it needs to be done this way, and they might be using a whole suite of activities. Like, they might have mimicking, they might do storytelling, they might show from here, you know, examples of like, here's what you've done, this is what I've done, here's how yours turned out and mine turned out, right? So they can kind of learn through the practice of doing and reviewing to see how things need to be revised from the bodily engagement part of it. So it's all really, really interesting stuff. And I think it's not been talked enough about. So I'm hoping to rectify that with these new videos. Oh dear, what time is it? Because I need to scoot at around 5 UK time here. Because it's dinner, and we unfortunately have to go to bed around 9 p.m., which is not that far from now. Trees mounted on ceilings. I've seen some videos of that too, and I've also seen cats jump and tear them down anyway, which I feel like our cat probably would do. She's like a tiny little bowling ball. Let's see, what else? Oh, well, I could get, I'll grab Layla at the end of the stream. She's sleeping and quiet right now, which I kind of like. I'll go grab her. Oh god, I feel like I need to get my eyes checked. I can hardly read this. Even. Oh yes, meeting people with passion and skill set. It feels like you're talking to the right people, your people. Yes. He definitely felt quite validated after that experience. And I think that's also why I enjoyed going to conferences, because I went to many conferences back when I was a student, and it felt good actually having my ideas validated, because when you're first kind of breaking into things, you're not really sure, have I read enough? Am I looking at the data in the right way? You know, has something become distorted? Do I just like misunderstand something, you know, fundamental about the period, and I'm just totally wrong? But yeah, it's been good for him. Very much a confidence boost. And like, if you are the other half of this kind of ensemble, where you know something about your significant other that they might be sort of like, oh, well, you have to say that, right? You have to, you're obligated, but you're really not, and they kind of know that you're not obligated to, right? But it's sort of, you need the right sort of people validating you, and that's what he got. But it was nice to kind of see what I've known all along actually be confirmed by both the results of the event, but also just the number of people who've come afterwards to congratulate him, because it isn't any easy feat, because the two people who just barely beat him are sort of like the top paragons in the field for him. So to come in third place out of nowhere was amazing. So yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I love it whenever he makes me a cup of coffee and brings it to me in the middle of my stream. So yeah, nice perk. And speaking of which, so you probably can see that I'm like just throwing these little bits on the ground. I'm pulling off. Basically, they are the bits of the fleece that when it got shorn, that part had already started to detach. And so it's not really a second cut, it's just when they've shorn it, they've clipped part of the new growth. And so, yeah, I've got like all, I don't even think you can see it, but it's like this really tiny bit on my finger. It doesn't want to focus, oh well. But I've been throwing it on the ground because this is going to sound so domestic of me, but our old vacuum cleaner, we had a Dyson, it started to fall apart, let's say, and it was gifted to us from my partner's parents. And so we've just been using it quite a lot, right, as you would if you have pets and you cart a bunch of wool all the time. And part of the hose, which switched from the upright position to the down position, so you can go from cleaning a floor to the extender nozzle that you can, clean sort of like freehand with. That bit is like a bit of hose, like that long, seriously. And it broke, it just shredded. And we had been taping over this as our repair for like at least a year, or about a year. And it finally shredded to the point where there was no saving it. It was basically just redepositing dirt all over the floor. And I was inconsolable last weekend because I had just made a huge mess carting a bunch of bats, which are now listed in the shop. And the room that I have all my work stuff set up in also doubles as our gym equipment. So I got a treadmill in there and our weightlifting stuff. And I felt really terrible because I made this big mess that I couldn't then clean up. And because I use Angelina in a lot of my stuff, it was all over the floor. And I was thinking, oh God, the cats are gonna find it and eat it because it's sparkly and kind of like a string. So they're gonna go after it, and it's just going to be really, really annoying. But the house got a Christmas present this year, and literally before I got the stream going today, I spent like an hour and a half just like vacuuming everything in the other half of the apartment. It sounds silly to be so excited about this, but if you've ever had a moth infestation in your stash, in your house, anything that's like really precious to you, that's wool based, that gets eaten by moths, it is so disheartening and devastating, right? Like the cost involvement, all of your effort just gone because a couple of hungry moths got in there. Now, before I relaunched Expertly Dyed, I kind of did sort of like that ramp up phase where I was kind of assembling all of my equipment in the UK because it was in storage for the first half of my PhD. And I bought some inexpensive fleeces from some local people because they were trying to get rid of the previous year's clippings. So I found a whole bunch for really inexpensive. But that also meant running the risk of something gross coming in, and unfortunately that's what happened. So I ended up opening up one of the fleeces. I think I didn't even have it for that long. I think I had it raw for about a month because I was working on the other fleeces at the time. And because my cats love wool, I had to keep it locked away from them. And there was only so much space. So when I finally got to it, I was so upset because it was just crawling in moth larvae. And I threw everything that was infested away, but because it had been slightly opened, it took forever. It took so long to finally get rid of the moths that sort of like got away, essentially. And I had to keep all my other stuff like double bagged just to keep it from getting infested. And I got like these like moth things, traps. So yeah, it was very upsetting. I've never had to deal with that before, but I think the last place we lived at, it didn't have really great seals on the floorboards, so moths could just come up from the floorboards at any time, and so that was really stressful. So I had to get really clever about storing everything and double checking everything to make sure I didn't have any infestations. And luckily, I was able to get rid of it before I relaunched Expertly Dyed. Sorry, dinner is being made over there. But yeah, so I was able to get rid of all the infestation before I relaunched Expertly Dyed officially. And I've not had any issues since, again, thankfully. But being able to clean up properly, especially around all the baseboards, was something that I have not been able to do for the last year. And so it felt very cathartic to go through and just, clean all of the baseboards properly, get rid of things that I couldn't actually reach before with the vacuum cleaner. It looks like we're living in a brand new apartment. It's so white and shiny. You can even see like where we've got a white carpet and two cats that are both dark colored, and they were leaving their cat hair everywhere, obviously. And it makes the carpet look really dingy, so I was really happy that I could actually get all that cleaned up. Anyway, so that's why I'm not really caring about throwing this wool on the floor, because I'm going to clean it up here in a minute. Oh, anyway, so I'm going to wrap up now. I've got a pretty decent start on this. I'm thinking it's probably going to need another bat. Ooh, do I have one of these? Oh, I do. 1 second. So, here's the bat. And you might be able to see some of these bits here and there. Oh, there. Those are the bits of the fleece that would be coming in new, and they've just been clipped off, and those are the bits that I'm throwing on the ground. And so this is the last bat that I had with these lighter colors. I've got some of the fleece which is darker than this, and I'm saving it for something different. And when I'm done making, I'll probably get 2 full skeins out of this, and then what I'll do is break this into thirds and spin a bit more for each of the 3 bobbins, and then ply those together. That way I'll have my target of around 1,200 yards, but we'll see how the first skein turns out in terms of yardage. If it's not enough, I might have to, I don't know, learn more Fair Isle. Have a really beautiful sweater that I wear underneath everything else. It's fine. It's just yarn. It's just yarn. Yeah, so for dinner we're having ribs, and I think what he's doing right now is making like a dry rub, maybe?
A what?
A dry rub? Is that what you're doing?
I'm gonna do a dry rub in the sauce.
Yep, dry rub then sauce. Sounds delicious. I haven't had ribs in years at this point. So anyway, and it looks like Layla's woken up, so I'm gonna go grab her real quick so she can say hi. There she is. Oh, my little lady bear. Aww. She does not look happy. She just woke up. Poor thing. She's also got a bit of a weepy eye. Poor thing. She's gonna have to go to the vet. Yep, this is Layla. Sometimes when I have to unceremoniously cut and do sort of like a pickup shot, it's because of this one. She's usually done something that has knocked the camera over, or she's just been really loud, or she's jumped into something that has caused a big loud noise. Our other cat, she's quiet. That's why you can never hear her. And sometimes I will do my videos when she's literally right next to me. Anywho, so that's Layla, our little rescue kitty. I'm hoping I'll be able to do another live stream on the other side of Christmas. So for those of you who are celebrating that, it'll be something worth looking forward to. Yay. Because I will have had all this holiday and I will be, refreshed. Don't know what the topic will be. If you have any suggestions for the next live stream topics, please pop that into the chat below. At this point, I think I might, next Saturday I'm going to go to a local guild meeting. I don't usually get a chance to go there because it's a real hassle to go there on the bus, especially with my wheel. And I'm hoping the end of January I'll actually pass my driving test, and then I'll be able to drive, and then maybe I'll actually be able to do more fiber shows, because I want to actually get my yarn into the hands of more people, and one great way to do that is to put it into shops. So yeah, I think I'll be doing a little bit more of that. So if you are UK based, especially, hopefully I'll have some more updates in the spring if I can get my yarns into some local shops. So if you don't want to buy online, or if you want to see in person, then you could just go to those shops and sort of see what I've got available. But yeah, so I'm a little bit on the fence whether I'm going to do a distaff spin day, because I don't know if that corresponds to a weekend off the top of my head. And I also don't have anything to put on a distaff at the moment, but I'll have a think. I did say something about using wool at one point, and it's actually right here. So I've got one of these like medieval ones, and it comes apart in the middle. Ooh, some dust just came out. So I've got like this top bit, which I might be able to put some wool on here and just do sort of like a distaff spin, like a live stream. Not necessarily a tutorial, because we're not there yet. But just something kind of like that, maybe? that's an idea. Anyway, if you've got other ideas, if you want to see things during a live stream, if you're working on projects and you want some sort of on-the-go help, then pop those ideas into the comments below. Otherwise, if you're looking for some last-minute gifts or something for yourself, or just because, right? It doesn't always have to be a specific reason to want something. You can just want it and then buy it. I am currently running a 20% off discount for everything in my shop. So on Etsy, it's 20% off. On my website, it's just standard. So if you ever wonder why my prices are a little bit different or kind of weird, it's because I have to increase all of my prices on Etsy because that's just the direction of the platform. But unfortunately it drives a lot of traffic. So yeah, it is what it is. But if you want to support me, there's that stuff there. I'm always happier when people buy products rather than just donate. There's also Patreon, so if you want to give me, a few bucks each month, I'm at the moment trying to do one big post each month, and then like a smaller post or an update. Ideally, when I start doing more videos again, I'm going to have my 24-hour window, or sometimes I'll do up to 72 hours before, depending on my own schedule. I'll get a video out where you can watch it ad-free first before it goes live on the channel, and other little behind-the-scenes stuff that just never sees the light of day because it needs to be behind a paywall. So that's there. But if you've liked this video, if you've watched this video, then you're already supporting me. And if you could, please give me a like before you leave. And if it's the first time here and you've not subscribed, I would be very much appreciative if you subscribe. And also click notifications so that whenever I do a live stream or schedule anything, you'll be notified. And whenever I do premieres, so my pre-edited uploads will launch with premieres. So if you always have your notifications set to be notified, then when the video premieres, I'll be in the chat. You can watch it with me live. We can talk about things. Sometimes it doesn't even include the video we're watching. Tangents. But yeah, it's there's lots of ways to support Actually Died, and I appreciate everyone who has supported me recently and over the years, and even those who want to and have supported me in the past but can't now. I also appreciate those people as well. Anyway, so I will try and keep that posted on socials first, give you some idea of when I'm going to do it, and then we'll get it all scheduled in well enough in advance, at least a day, so you can kind of plan accordingly. So, thank you so much for watching and for spending this last hour with me. If you've missed this whole video and you've just joined, I see that Jelaine has just now gotten here. Feel free to run it all the way back to the beginning and watch it, and share the VODs. So, anyway, have a lovely Sunday. Bye. Oh, Layla.